baby number 22 in 2022.
Guys, today, basically, there was about like 7-8 births today, and I got one, which is cool. I'm so grateful to God for it. But because of the day that I got 3 in one day, when there's so many births, it makes me feel like, oh, can you imagine? Because I was on 21. If I got 8, I would have been on 29 in one day. That would be mad. But obviously, the labour care is important. You have to know how to look after women in labour. So it can't just be me hopping from room to room. Someone's pushing, the baby's coming. And I'm like, hi, and just coming to deliver the baby. It doesn't work like that. And I feel like as a pregnant woman as well, I wouldn't really enjoy that. I wouldn't like that. So, but yeah, let me tell you about this special, amazing woman from today. So it was actually her second baby, but her first baby was a few years back. So she kind of felt like new to it. But so she's para 1 because it was her second baby. So as soon as a midwife hears a woman is para 1, like immediately they're like, it's probably going to go quite fast because their body has done it before. When a woman's having a baby for the first time, the body knows what it's doing, but hasn't done it before. The vagina hasn't stretched that much, so it's more likely to take longer. Sometimes though, there are exceptions. But yeah, so she had also had a PPH before, which is a postpartum hemorrhage, which means that she had bleeding of, like, just a lot of bleeding of more than 500 more than 500 milliliters, and her previous PPH was 2.5 liters. She actually had to have a blood transfusion of 2 units, so 2 units of blood transfused, and it was very traumatic for her. And she said that the blood loss was actually from her vaginal tears. After receiving handover in the morning about her, the plan was to give her an examination 4 hours from the last one and then just do intermittent auscultation, which is listening into the fetal heart rate every 15 minutes, and then when she gets to the pushing stage, listening every 5 minutes. And also the normal things, so ensuring that she's hydrating, that she's using the toilet, and that she's mobilizing too, using the birthing ball. And with intermittent auscultation, you have to be recording the fetal heart rates and just seeing whether there's a rise in the baseline of the baby's heart rate. You have to kind of picture a C.G. in your mind, just to see like if there are any changes as well. And you listen in straight after a contraction, because if there are going to be decelerations, you're going to hear it after the contraction, and that's important to pick up. So essentially, yeah, that's all we were doing for her, and she was so calm as well. I would come into the room and auscultate, ask her how it's going, how she's doing. And she said her last baby, she only used gas and air, so she said that when it gets there, she would only want to use gas and air if she feels like her pain is becoming a lot. I forgot to say, so all this period of time she's been 4 centimeters dilated. So ward round happened, where the doctors come in and they basically just assess the situation and give their advice and take on it and stuff. And when the doctor came in, he said a few interesting stuff that I noted down. So he was speaking about her first baby and what happens, and he said actually 77%, I'm going to look up these statistics as well, but 77% of women tear when it's their first baby, and that the vagina has a very good blood supply, which I knew, so it can bleed very easily and it can become a lot quite quickly. But as I was saying, as the vagina and the body has done this before, it's going to stretch easily for the next babies, so it's less common for tears in the next pregnancies. So not long after the ward round, we examined her again, and I got to examine her first in the midwife. So from the handover, we were told that her waters are still there, her membranes are still intact, but they are bulging, which means that if you examine her, you can proper feel it, like the bag, the sack of water is literally like a bubble on top of baby's head. It's bulging. And this lady was actually not the biggest, she was quite small, to be honest. So I examined her first. I felt the bulging membranes, and with bulging membranes you can't feel the landmarks on the baby's head to kind of know what position the baby's in. So I was paying more attention to the dilation of the cervix. But this woman didn't have the epidural, remember, so she was in pain. when I was examining her, and she was using the gas and air, and I knew the midwife was going to examine her after me, so I didn't go as far in as I could have, because I was just thinking she's in pain and we're putting her more pain. So I felt the cervix, I felt the bulging membranes, and then I just let go. I just took my hand out. In the med, I was thinking maybe she's 6 centimeters, but I didn't like assess properly, and I let the midwife go ahead. I asked her to talk me through what she was doing, and she did. And she found that the woman was still 4 centimeters. She said 4 to 5 centimeters. But what she found very significant was that baby's head is very high. She said she probably had to put her hand and her arm in to reach the baby's head. You can see the woman was uncomfortable as well, because examinations are not nice and we shouldn't do too much of them anyway. So with a head that's high, there are a few things that can be done. You can encourage mobilization, encourage her to walk around, go up and down stairs if possible, bounce on the birthing ball, and just make sure she's upright. Or what is more common on delivery suite is an artificial rupture of membranes, which is basically taking a hook, inserting it into the vagina and breaking the waters. So I had never done the ARM before, artificial rupture of membranes, but it's something that I needed to do, because as a student, it's not just come to work and experience these things and do these things. It's you've got things to sign off, you've got assessments to show that you're able to do stuff. So I needed to get signed off an ARM, and I hadn't done it before. And of course, if there was the opportunity for me to do it, I could just talk about it. But this was a great opportunity, and I was so blessed and thankful that the midwife was like, "Yeah, do you want to do it?" And I was like, "Yeah, I need to do this." So before you do an artificial rupture of membranes, you must palpate the abdomen. Why? For the presentation of baby, you have to see how many fifths palpable the baby is. And that is so hard to explain without visibly showing you. But if you are a student midwife, you might understand what I'm saying. So on the abdomen, you might feel 1/5 of the baby's head, or none of the baby's head, or 2 or 3/5 of the baby's head. And it's important to know, because that kind of shows you how high up the baby is. From the vaginal aspect. Also, instead of faffing around with a sonic aid trying to find the heart rate at the same time as trying to do ARM, it's easier, and I think it's recommended that you do put the woman on the C.G monitor to find baby's heart rate. Also, because of the bulging membranes, the head wasn't well applied to the cervix, which means once the water goes, the head can just literally go down, which is fine, which is good, which is what we want. But because there's a lot of space, the cord possibly could go down. That could possibly cause a cord prolapse, which is where the cord is the presenting part, not the baby's head. The cord is in front of the baby's head, and if that cord comes out, yeah. So having a C.G monitor on, like, would the changes that we'd see would show us if the cord is there or not, kind of thing. So it's important. Okay, so enough about the background stuff. I actually did the ARM. So what I did was I gave her another examination to assess for the ARM, and basically just felt where the bulging membranes was, felt where baby's head was. Even though there was bulging membranes, I was kind of scared that I'm going to scratch baby's head. So I was doing it so softly. So my hands are inside, I'm doing the examination. The midwife passes me the hook, and basically you go in with the hook facing down because you don't want to be scabbing the vagina. So yeah, she passed me the hook. I went in with the hook facing down, and once I could feel where the bulging membranes was, where a good place to put the hook was, I turned the hook the right way up, and I started slowly like scratching the membranes to release the water. So I think someone would have done it more harder than me, but I was being very careful, and water started to come, and I was like, oh, like I've done it right then, because if you've done it right, waters would come in it. But that's not the end. Once the waters are coming, you have to check around baby, around the cervix, check if you can feel the cord, yeah, and also clear any more membranes that are around, and then give her another examination, because the baby's head could have just dropped, causing her dilation to change, causing the cervix to change. But in this case, I think I was just excited that's all it was. I wasn't thinking about it too much. In my head, everything was the same. So she was still 4 centimeters. So after this, we kept her on the C.G for about 10 to 15 minutes and then took her back off and then continued intermittent auscultation just because there's no indication for her to be in a C.G. She could have even been on the birthing centre. I think it's just because of the previous PPH, just being careful and making sure we have extra help at hand. And yeah. So I'll fast forward. At a point in time, the call bell went off and she was called. I went in there and she was saying that, oh, she feels like something's moving, something's going down. I lifted up her sheet and I told her the water's draining. There's going to be more waters draining because her waters have now gone. So it's going to keep draining because that's what she could feel. And I said also, like, all of that water is gone. So baby's going to keep moving down now. So yeah, I said her that baby's going to be moving down. She'll feel it and stuff. And like, what positions does she want to do? So she wanted to stand, so we did standing for a bit. Then she wanted to sit on the birthing ball. We did that, and changing positions is so good for like even reducing the labour time. Like, it just speeds things up. And then she went back on the bed. Her contractions were frequent. You could see that she was distressed. She was still very quiet and very calm. And I was like, some of these women, you gotta watch them, because we had to watch this lady, because I feel like she could have given birth to the baby with us out of the room. That's how quiet she was. But I thought about it. I was like, so she was saying, yeah, okay, I'll get there. She was saying basically, no, I was just with her and stuff, and I thought to myself, this woman hasn't passed any urine since we've been here, like the whole day, like. So I was like, I went outside and I told the midwife. The midwife was like, she was just about to say that. So I grabbed the commode. I got her to sit on the commode with her consent, of course. And then the minimal amount of urine was passed. And I was going to leave the room. I think she just didn't want me to go. But I was going to leave the room because I know people use the toilet. Well, I know I use the toilet better with privacy. Like, so I didn't want to be in there and like someone's there, so not everything's going to drain. But she said she felt like her bladder fully drained and that she actually hasn't been drinking much the whole day. And I had been encouraging her to drink, but after that, we said to the partner, between her contractions, give her sips of water. So after this, I did another set of obs on her because it was 4 hours since I had done the last one and everything was okay still. Before that, I had even been taking her pulse once or twice anyway. So yeah, everything was all right. I went to take the commode out to get rid of the urine and the call bell went off. So I came out of the room to check if it was her, and it was her. And she was saying that, nah, she feels pressure. And she kept saying that she can't do it. She's not going to be able to push. And I was like, do you have the urge to push? And she said, yes. So I pressed the call bell again because I had switched it off. And the midwife came. Another midwife came and started drawing up 40 units of syntocinon just because of her previous postpartum hemorrhage where she wouldn't stop bleeding, just on the safe side to be ready. And she had also agreed to active 3rd stage of labour with consent. She consented to active 3rd stage of labour, which is where we give an injection of syntometrin or syntocinon, but in this stage we're giving her syntometrin in order to help the uterus contract so the placenta expels within 30 minutes. At this stage she was also feeling nauseous, like she needed to throw up, which is also a sign that baby's coming. So they came in the room and I was trying to listen to the fetal heart rate. She was now in a different position on the bed, so it was making it more difficult for me because I was used to feeling the fetal heart rate in a different position. So I'm trying to figure out where it was, and she was in an optimum position for her. It's not about the medical person, it's about the woman. Is she comfortable and all that stuff? So it wasn't ideal for me, it was ideal for her, which is more important. And the midwife said let's swap, so she went to go and auscultate and listen to the fetal heart rate. I went to put on my gloves, get the delivery pack ready, and I looked behind me and I could see the head. Oh. I said, what? I just rushed. I ran some warm water. I put a swab in it from the delivery pack and I put it on her perineum to do some warm compress. But listen, this quiet lady was quiet no more. Like, she wasn't shouting insanely, but the quiet lady you saw, this new baby was coming because she wasn't quiet anymore. She did that. And she pushed that baby out. The head and the body came out at the same time. Yeah, and my hands were there, so it wasn't bad or anything. We gave the syncymetrin quickly. Got placenta out. As well, Dad cut the cord, and then I guarded the uterus with my hand, and then I used a clamp and I guided the placenta out, which came out quite easily. Then the midwife was like, she's just going to assess for tears quickly because there was quite a bit of blood, not a lot, but it seemed like she was bleeding. So as she was assessing, she stopped and a huge clot came out. It looked like it was another placenta. Like, I was like, what just happened? So the woman was using gas and air, and then she was putting her hand in and just guiding out these big clots. And I was like, wow. And she asked me to palpate the uterus. I palpated, it was well contracted. I've never palpated that hard in my life. It literally felt like a huge golf ball. But I'm practically rubbing her tummy. I was whispering, rubbing her tummy. And as I did that, more clots were coming out. So we ended up getting all the clots out, started up the 40 units of syntocinon, and then assessing for any tears. And so she had a second-degree tear, which later on, so basically the vagina wall, vagina muscle, and the skin had to be stitched up. And then she had a tear that goes up from her urethra, which is where urine comes out of, her urethra to her clitoris. So this is the top end of the vagina, and midwives dare not go near that area. So we had to call a doctor, and this doctor was super nice, and she basically done the stitching there. And then she had a graze on one side of her labia, which I think was left because of the tear. It was just a graze and it wasn't actually bleeding. So yeah, at the end of the day, she had 400 milliliters of blood loss, which was good for a previous PPH. Good in general. It wasn't too bad. So yeah, she went through a lot. Very strong, amazing, kind woman. Like, she did amazing. I was so proud of her. Had a good conversation and debrief with her afterwards as well. Beautiful baby born. My 22nd baby. Her partner was like, 22 in 2022. I was like, yeah, come on. So my first baby of 2022 was my 22nd one. So yeah, it was a great day, great experience with her. I did have another lady later, but I don't want to make this too long. I didn't actually spend too much time with her because, yeah, it was home time. So yeah, I really enjoyed looking after her. And if I had actually got those 6 births in one day, which I don't know if a student ever has had that, because that's a lot, but I wouldn't have had as much time with her. So it's kind of a positive. So I'm grateful for this day. It was good. But yeah, I'll keep you posted. I'm working tomorrow, so how tomorrow goes.